Welcome to Drive the Daf, clear, structured explanation of the daily daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Maseches Eruvin Daf Kuf Hey is the final daf in Maseches Eruvin. It is a short daf, and it discusses three primary sugyas. Who is allowed to go into the Beis Hamikdash or into the Heichal or even into Kodesh HaKadoshim in order to do work there? Are Yisraelim allowed to go there? Are Kahanim who have a mum allowed to go there? Are Kahanim Tmeim allowed to go there? And we're going to get into that in order to explain the Machlokes which we saw in our last Mishnah. And then we will discuss the final statement of Rabbi Shimon at the end of the last Mishnah about where Chazal gave a Teirim for certain Yisurim. So first of all, we had seen in our last Mishnah that there was a Machlokes between Shimon ben Anas and Rabbi Akiva as to which zones of the Beis Hamikdash one is allowed to move a muktzah dead sheretz out of that area on Shabbos. You're allowed to violate Hilchas Muktzah in order to get the sheretz out. According to Ben Anas, it was only from the Heichal, the Ulam, and between the Ulam and the Mizbeach, the levels of highest Kedusha. According to Rabbi Akiva, it was even further than that. In the entire Zohar, they were allowed to clear the thing out of. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan says that they both are learning their opinion from a pasuk. Pasuk is describing when Chizkiyahu HaMelech took over from his father Achaz. Achaz was a Rasha, and he filled the entire Beis Hamikdash with avodah zaras and their things that he brought to them. Now those things are tamei. The halachas that avodah zara and tekrovoseh are tamei. So Chizkiyahu ordered that they be carried out and cleaned out. So the pasuk in the Vayam describes it as follows: the Kehanim went into the Heichal, they took everything out until out of the Heichal, out into the Chatzar, and from the Chatzar, meaning the Azara, the Levim picked it up from there and carried it out of the Azara, out of the Beis Hamikdash, and out of Yerushalayim. Now, the issue is, why did they switch? Why did the Kehanim do the inner part and the Levim do the outer part from the Mizbeach on outward? So according to Ben Ananas, the reason is because there's no Isser Tumah there anymore. Once the Kahanim had it out past the Mizbeach, there's no problem of Tumah. So Kahanim shouldn't be metami themselves anymore to carry it further. You can't have other Kahanim who aren't Tumah yet pick it up from there and carry it further. There, it's a job for a Levi. It's not Asur for a Levi to be metami. So that clearly proves that there's no Isser to have it past the Ulam. Now Rabbi Akiva says, no, that's not the reason. Rabbi Akiva says, really, they should have had Levim doing the whole thing. The only reason that they had Kehanim doing the inner part is because Levim aren't allowed to go there. But Levim were really the ones that are supposed to carry everything out. So the reason why they stopped at the reason the Kehanim didn't do any carrying past the Mizbech is because Levim are allowed to. The Levim are allowed to go past the Mizbech Stam. So therefore, Kehanim did the inner part, Levim did the outer part. But really, it has to be carried all the way out of the Ezra altogether, which is why the Levim carried them out, and that's why they remove them from there. Okay, now the Gemara quotes two brises and a statement of Rav Huna about who's allowed to go do work inside the Beis Hamikdash. So if something in the Heichal needs to be fixed or built, who do you send in? So the first brise says, preferably, also if you want to remove Tumah from there. So the first brise says, you really should get Kehanim to do it. If you can't find Kehanim, then you get Levim. And you don't have Levim, you can even get Yisraelim, but everybody has to be Tahar. A Tameh can't go in there. Now, the Gemara quotes Rav Huna, who's called Rav Huna Kahana Messiah Kahani. Rav Huna was a Kohen, and he said halachos to help Kohanim. He learned from the pasuk that says Achla Parochus Lo Yavoy, that says that somebody who is a Baal Mum can't go from the Mizbeach on inward. That's only to do avodah. But if he's going there to build, like to put the special gold overlay on the walls, then he's allowed to. How do you know that that's true? Because it says the word ach. The extra word ach. Achla Parochus Yavai is to minimize the halacha. It's only for the avodah that he's not allowed to go there, but for work he is allowed to go there. For construction work he's allowed to go there. Like we say, every time you have an ach or a rak, it's to minimize the halacha. Now another brisa, which goes differently than the previous brisa, discussing who's allowed to go there for work. This brisa says that it should be somebody who's a tam. The first thing is, you want somebody who's a Baal Mum. If you someone who's not a Baal Mum. If you can't find somebody who's not a Baal Mum, then you can even use somebody with a Mum. You should also try to find somebody who's Tar, and if you can't find that, then you can use somebody who's Tameh. That's as far as we're willing to go. But Kohanim have to be the ones to do it. You can't have Yisraelim, presumably Levium, be doing work inside places where Yisraelim are not allowed to go. So according to the first Abraisa, we're matir Yisraelim to go in there for work. According to the second Abraisa, we're matir Bali Mumin and Tameim, but we're not matir Yisraelim. So now the Gemara asks, if you have a Tamei and a Balmum, according to this Brisa, which one is preferable? We said that you're supposed to try to avoid it, but you're allowed to have a Tamei or a Balmum if you need to. Let's say you have both. Which one should be the one to do the work? So it's a machokas. If Chei Barashi says a Tamei is preferable because he has a special kula, a Tamei is even allowed to shacht a carbon if it is a public carbon. Tumba Hutra B'tzibur, he's allowed to do avoda for the public, for a large number. Rabbi Elazar says, well, that's a special halacha that he has, but there's a special halacha the other way also. Balmum is allowed to eat kachim. Tamei is not allowed to eat kachim. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar says the Balmum should be the one to go in, and not the Tamei. Okay, that concludes this discussion. Now the Gemara goes to the last line of the Mishnah, which is a statement from Rabbi Shimon. Now, Rabbi Shimon had said two statements at the end of the Mishnah that didn't seem relevant to anything. He said, the Chachamim only allowed you to do things which you're really allowed to do anyway. And he said, you're only allowed to violate a Isur D'Rabbanan in the Beis HaMikdash, not an Isur D'Oraisa. So what's he referring to? So the Gemara says the first statement is referring to a Mishnah way back in Daf Nun Beis, where we had a machlokas. Somebody finds himself outside the Tchum before Shabbos. Is he allowed to just jump into the Tchum once Shabbos has began? The Tanna Kama had said not even one amma, and Rabbi Shimon said as long as he's within 15 ammas he could. And here Rabbi Shimon's explaining that there's not really a heter. The Tchum really extends 15 amos, he said, up to 15 amos. The reason for that is because the Tchum extends 15 amos past where it's marked. The marker people would be machmir and mark it 15 amos short, because people make mistakes. But really, if you're within 15 amos of the marker, then you're still within the Tchum, you're allowed to go in there. And he explains it here by saying we're not really giving you anything, we're just allowing you to do what you're allowed to do anyway. In the second statement, half of the statement which he said we only allow a D'Rabbanan in the Beis HaMikdash and not a D'Oraisa, is referring to the Mishnah Daf Kuf Beis, not that long ago, where there was a discussion about fixing a string of a harp that broke. And Tanna Kama said you're allowed to make a knot, and Rav Shimon said you're only allowed to make a bow. And the reason for that is as follows. Rav Shimon is explaining here, the make a knot would be an Isur D'Oraisa. Tying a permanent knot is an Isur D'Oraisa. We can't allow you to do that even in the Beis HaMikdash. A bow, even if it ends up staying long term, is only an Isur D'Rabbanan because it's a slip knot. It's not considered a strong knot, and therefore it's not Isur D'Oraisa. That's why we allow you to do that in the Beis HaMikdash. We took off Yisur D'Rabbanan in the Beis HaMikdash. However, to tie an actual knot, then it's forbidden. Hadron halach Meseches Eruvin, Hadron halach Meseches Eruvin, Hadron halach Meseches Eruvin.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.